There we go. There we are. We are live everywhere. Love when things work out. Hello, everyone. So happy to see you. Today is Monday. If you have been following along, we have been doing our Be Your Own Valentine Lunch and Learn series that we started last week. If you need the replays for those, please comment the word replay and we will get you those replays. Now, I'm going to be streaming on a few different social medias. So if you are a female and you need that replay, I do recommend coming to our Facebook group, which is Divorce Support, Heal, Rebuild, and Thrive. If you're a guy, we can still help you out. Just go over to our YouTube channel, Being Loved Shouldn't Hurt, and you can subscribe and get all the replays there as well. I want to make sure everybody is getting the right support. So before we dive in and get our wonderful guests that I'm actually really excited for you to meet, I just want to give you a little bit of a heads up. For those of you who this is maybe your first one, my name is Stephanie McPhail. We really specialize in people that are the pre-divorce thinking about it. Maybe we need to go down this route to beyond it. So that's what this series is about, is really that beginning phase. I'm thinking about knowing, like I know that something's not right. I've tried a lot of things and I probably need to go down this direction, all the way to, past divorce, possibly even dating, and not making sure that you don't fall into the same patterns. And so we wanted to start and doing these lunch and learns because it's really important for people to get the right information. And we're going to talk about that with our guests as well as really what to know throughout this entire process. This is probably the first time you've ever gone through it. Hopefully it'll be the last time you go through it. And most of us are just not prepared. We don't know what we are getting ourselves into when we're dealing with all of this. So stick around. This is going to be a great segment. Again, if you need the replays from the other ones, let us know. And at the end, we're going to share a special offer that we have been offering for everyone who is watching this series. We got something really great for you. So I'm going to bring on Chris Stuart. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Steph, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. I am so excited. So Chris, right before he came on, he lost power at his house. So he's luckily it's sunny.
Paid my bill, I promise.
Well, so this is actually really exciting because Chris and I have been doing a lot of work together and really supporting each other's businesses. And so I'm really excited to be able to have him on to share how he can help you. But also, I think this is, also a great opportunity to share the perspective from a guy going through divorce. I mean, we work with a lot of women. We also have some amazing male clients as well. But I think it's really important to look at that perspective, that male perspective as well. So Chris, why don't you give us a little bit about your background, like what brought you here and what it is that you do?
Absolutely. I've been an entrepreneur for a long time, about 16, 17 years for my adult life. Had many businesses, many industries. Went through a really traumatic divorce in 2018 that really shifted me in a lot of ways. And I found myself in 2021, knowing that I kind of want to get out of some of the business that I'm doing and really kind of help others. I didn't really know in what capacity. Well, call it divine intervention, whatever you want to call it. I'm in Newport Beach, California, selling a business, and we do this golf foundation every year and come across a divorce coach. I was just like, what the hell is that? Coming from a divorced individual myself, I thought it was a joke. I was like, this is California. Like, this is just some California stuff. Yeah, like, I don't know what this is. So, of course, my wheels are spinning on what actually it is. And he was really insightful for what he brought to the table. And when I get back to Memphis, Tennessee, where I currently live, just asked my attorney friends, what is this? And they started saying it's a thing. It's just not really here. And it would be a lovely addition to what we do. And I was like, okay, coming from somebody that, was in and out of the courts for many, many years, spent 7 figures on attorney's fees. I had a lot of insight on kind of that process. Well, I went and got educated. When I sold my practices, I went and I got educated. I found certified divorce coaching. And I did that for many, many months. Spent a lot of hours training, peer coaching, learning, because I wanted to coach everybody, not just from what I went through. I wanted to help everybody collectively, men, women, all aspects of divorce. So that's what kind of brought me here. I launched my practice beginning of last year, and it's just been gas pedal, no brake. It's been great. I've helped many people, and I love what I do. I mean, because I was in that seat of the unknown and facing so many dark places that I just didn't know kind of how I would get out of the surface, especially from a male. Men don't ask for help. I'm an alpha dog. Like I want everybody to see me as like, I've got it going on. I was at the stage of very, very dark times in my life. So I was very happy to get through it. And I just wish I had somebody like myself or you and David to really help me through the process. So
Yeah. It's interesting. So, you call yourself the alpha dog. I mean, for me as the type A successful professional woman, same thing. Like I don't need help. I don't ever ask anybody for help, and I wish I knew. Well, I don't even think that this existed when I was going through it. I mean, if it did, I didn't know anything about it.
And I think the lack of education is really where we're at today, like while we're helping these people, because it's the education that nobody knew. I remember driving down the interstate. Like I said, I'm a successful male, have it going on. Everything was great. I'm going through a divorce, and I found myself driving down the interstate just crying for no reason. Mm-hmm. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to the golf course to meet my buddies to go have a good time. I'm literally crying myself to death. Yeah. And I get there just so everybody knew, like, I'm okay. But I wasn't okay. So it's really that education that's out there, that there are resources for people that really do need help.
Yeah. And it's okay to ask for help.
It's okay to ask for help.
Yeah. And I think, one of the things that we talk about is, is if you're starting to go down that road, is to get yourself support. Right. And there's a lot of talk about getting therapists, and this is not to diss on therapists. There's a time and a place, I believe, for therapy. But when it comes to this specifically, I think there needs to be a level of support that has not existed before for people that are going through divorce because of that. I mean, when you are so used to being the one in charge, having it all together, all of that, and you're crying yourself to sleep, and you're just feeling lost, it's a terrible place to be and to feel that way, to feel that sense of like, who the fuck am I? Like, what am I doing here? What's going on?
Yeah, I just found myself just like, what in the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, I remember just going through this process, and I never in my life went to a therapist. I went to a therapist. Yeah. And I'm just sitting there listening to, like, going back to my childhood. I think therapy is a wonderful thing. I needed help presently and where to go and what I needed to do next. And I kept going back to the other resources. And like I said, I value therapy very much. I work with a lot of therapists that I refer and work with me and the attorneys and the CDFAs and everybody else. And we'll get to that, talking about a team. Because I think every professional has to have their own space. Yeah. I mean, I think we all collectively work together in the same manner to help, everybody getting through this process.
So let's go in there. What is, I love, and this is why, it's just so great being a part of Chris's circle, because there is this, when we're coming out of pain and we use that pain to help others, it's such a beautiful thing. And when you have this bigger view, and that's one of the things that I really liked when I first started talking to Chris, is that it's like, for me, I do this not because I want to, I feel like I have to. I have this bigger vision and know that there is so much need out there for people to get help and support, and it's just not happening. And so Chris has this really great vision of how to really help more people. And it really is having a team for us, so that we're not trying to figure it out all by ourselves. We have the people that are all set up to really help support us through the darkest time of our life.
Absolutely. The team presence to me is everything, because I'm a former athlete. I coach my kids' sports. To me, team building to me is very informational, because everybody has a role, and what role is that? If you've been on a successful team, whether it's athletics, business, whatever, friendship, whatever you want to call a team, everybody plays an intricate role. So, everybody does it to the best of their ability, and that's how successful companies form. And that's how success is really built. It's hard to do it by yourself. It really is. I always say, like, being in the gym, like, you can go work out. Everybody has that, I'm going to get in shape for spring break type mentality. I'm going to get healthy, get my body back. Yeah, but you could do it on your own if you really have an insight and knowledge of how to work out and get healthy and eat right. Or would you rather join, something like a personal training type gym, or like a burn boot camp, or something of that, capacity, where it gives you kind of incentive of like, hey, where are you? I'm here waiting on you. It has some accountability too. So I think a team effort in every aspect, especially in divorce. Especially in divorce, you have to have a team.
Yeah. And I really, we can't get out of our own thinking. I always say to clients, the thinking that got us here is not going to get us out necessarily. We don't have all of the tools, because this is not the norm for us. This is not what we normally do. And again, for a lot of us, I mean, I grew up in a pretty conservative Christian household, and the thought of getting a divorce already felt terrible. And
Ugh.
then to be going through it and have, and you know, for me, I had an abusive ex-husband. So then there was that layer of shame and guilt on top of it. So here we are processing all the things that are going on. And then on top, going through the whole divorce process and what's going on. And then we think that we're mad at ourselves because we're not figuring it out. When reality, how do we even think we're going to? I mean, it's beyond, it doesn't make any sense.
It really doesn't. I mean, you're so right about that because I mean, like me, like I'm the first divorced person in my family. Like my parents, I don't think they've ever had a fight. You know, and I worship that. Like I wish, like, you know, always as a kid, I always wanted that. And that's something that, you know, I felt like a failure going through a divorce because I felt like I let my family down and I let other people down. But, you know, it's okay. I never talked about it. It's okay. Like, it is okay. Like, life moves on. Like, you're going to be okay. It's terrible right now, but you're going to be okay. But it's, you know, like my dad, you know, we had a heart to heart. And I was just like, Dad, how'd you do it? Like, how are you and Mom so good? He's like, communication. He's like, communication. That's all. And he goes, I can't stress that enough. And I'm like, okay, communicating the right way, not just communicating the right way. And I was just like, man, I just worship that. And I, you know, and I needed it so bad, but here we are. And you know, life moves on.
And we can't, you know, we can't control what other people are doing.
Exactly. And I'm a big advocate for being in control of yourself because you cannot control what others do. And I remember as a younger person, hell, even right before my divorce, I'd say younger, it was like 8 years ago. I always had a problem with, you know, I'm not a control freak, but it's like, I can't control what other people do. And I had an issue with it, but it's like now, like I know so much more now about the world. Like it's okay. I can't control that.
Yeah. It's interesting what you learn
Oh,
if you allow it to be a lesson as you go through the process.
worldly knowledge, like worldly knowledge. Like I wish I'd have had this, like, you know, out of college or something.
I always say, I wish we didn't have to learn things trial by fire. Like, it'd be so much nicer to just have it like installed and just.
Right. But it's such a hard topic to discuss, really. You know, people don't want to talk about, you know, these things that are really unsettling to them. And I get it because I was there.
Yeah.
Now looking back, I'm like, man, I wish I would have reached out to more people because I was like, I needed conversation. I needed a lot of things at that point in time. So yeah. I agree with that.
And so we talk a lot about, you know, how much businesses are the loss for a business and the loss of, you know, even our own time and our health and everything else. You know, I remember going into work after only sleeping like 3 hours the night before because I was so stressed and overwhelmed, and then going in and just having this heightened just embarrassment of like, oh, I'm going through a divorce. Like everyone's going to know I'm going through a divorce. And that was the first thing that was on my mind all the time, you know? And so, and to being able to function and do just like normal activities and feeling like nobody else understood what I was going through and dealing with, and just feeling so isolated, even though intellectually I knew how many people had been through a divorce and all that. But, you know, we don't realize how much loss there is, whether you're the business, you know, it's your business or it's yourself and you're an employee. But there's a lot of missed days of work. There's a lot of health issues.
Yep.
There's a lot of stuff that go along with it if we're not aware.
Absolutely right. And I, you know, was in the position when I was going through my divorce and I was busy. I had a lot of businesses to take care of. And my dad luckily retired around that time. So he stepped in and helped me because he knew I needed help. And he did a lot of my stuff for me because there's days I didn't want to get out of bed, you know. And I remember Miss Clary, she worked for me for many years. She passed a couple years ago, but she was I remember going and sitting in my desk and she came over to me and she put her hand on my shoulder and she was like, Mr. Chris, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm good. She goes, but you're not. I was, you know, I lost it, you know, because, you know, you're walking around with all this emotion. And I remember too making some financial decisions that didn't make sense. Like I've always, you know, my dad was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "That's just stupid." You know, I didn't mean to do that because I'm focused more on what is going on today. I'm focusing on hemorrhaging out money to my lawyers, hemorrhaging out all these other expenses that just came out of the woodwork. And I mean, it's hard, and I can't, like, on the other side of the coin, if I had to go to an employment job, I would have been fired. Like I wouldn't have been able to keep it together. And I know a lot of people suffer for that and companies suffer from this, you know, so divorce support services are a necessary plan of action.
Yeah.
Because, you know, people need this help. People need the proper guidance, because I mean, you've heard it many times where you get a divorce and, you look back on it 3-4 years later and you're financially broke.
Oh,
You look back and your kids are a mess, and you made so many bad decisions, whether it's financially or ethically or whatever it may be. And you just look back and like, I wish I would have never done that. And then you're here and you're trying to work another 4 or 5 years to gain back what you just lost. And it's not really just about money. It's about your self-worth too.
yeah.
It's hard getting through this process if you didn't do it correctly and then coming out on the other end successful. Whether or not success is a healthy outcome in a court's eye, I think successful outcome really generates from when you look back at your divorce. Where are you at today? How healthy are you today? How happy are you today? Where are you at today? What pathway did you take to get here, and what goals do you have for the future? Because there is life after divorce, and that's a dark path. When you're looking down the rabbit hole, you don't see light in the beginning. You really don't.
No.
Hell, I didn't see light after a year. I mean, it one day it finally appeared.
And it really is amazing, because that's what it is. It's like, someone said to me, it's like running a marathon, where it's this long thing that you're going to have to deal with. And I mean, and that is the reality. And I think for a lot of people, when they're done with it, they think, okay, I'm better. I'm not going to do that again. And we have to be really careful, because for many of us, if we don't heal those parts of us, and I'd say like 99.9% of us, if we don't heal those parts of us that allowed us to stay in that relationship as long as we did, we're going to end up in another unhealthy relationship, which is why 70% of second marriages end in divorce too, because we avoid dealing with the things we need to deal with because we want to just move on.
Well, it's like what James Sexton says in his podcast, which I think he's an amazing lawyer in person. And he says that, most marriages end, and then 5 years later, a lot of people get remarried. And, to me, like I told you before, like in my divorce, I did that stupid thing and I started dating immediately. And what happened, right? I had 2 wonderful females that I was in a relationship with that I could not give them what they wanted. And what happens? I hurt them. And that's not at all what I want to do, right? So it's like I jumped into something that I was not prepared for. And ultimately, what do? I hurt not only myself again, but I hurt someone else that now is compounding another problem. I have this divorce problem right now. I'm in the middle of a divorce and I'm going to go date. Oh, it was terrible. It was a terrible decision. I had to literally be friends with these females and just tell them how sorry I was after I realized like I needed to heal. Like I wasn't ready for this.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand that. They're looking for love, and I know it. I was the same boat. Like I wanted to be loved. I wanted to not hurt so bad. But ultimately what happened, I mean, you engage in a relationship and it's like, I want marriage or I want to move in. It's like, I'm not ready for that.
Yeah. Well, and I think also when you've been in this tumultuous relationship and you're dealing with a divorce, you want to feel attractive. Right. There's that part of you that's like, do people want me? Like, what am I, especially if you've been married for a long time, there's a scary thing of being single again. And everyone talks about how scary it is to be single and how the dating process is. And there's plenty of books and stories that could be written about dating. Don't get me wrong. But, instead of jumping right into that, because it's going to feel way worse to date if we haven't done that inner work first. So we want to make sure that we've done that. And we don't, like you said, suck people into our drama that's going on. We need to make sure that we're free of that before we dive in with somebody else.
Well, also, the biggest part of what we do, I think, too, is we're a voice of reason because we are not triggered. We're not in this relationship. We are not in this divorce. We are your support system. So we are the logical thinkers here. And so I completely believe if I would have looked back on my divorce and I sat down with you or me or any other, divorce professional and been like, what do I need to do? Like, I need to feel better. I need to make better decisions. What do I need to do? I just don't know what to do. And that's really, and I didn't know what to do. I was that stereotypical guy that I went to the highest profile attorneys in the city of Memphis. I mean, you're talking $50,000 retainer, you're talking $800, $900 an hour. And it got sticky really quick. And all I thought about is I wanted my 1-year-old son and I wanted my money. And that's not the way to just look at it. Looking at everything as a whole, I feel like I could have got divorced in 6 months and it would have been fine. and it would have been so messy.
Yeah. And that's so, and I'd love to, because this is one of the things that I love that you do for people, specifically, is to be able to help them make sure that they are not making those dumb financial decisions, but like, making sure that they're looking at the right things, preparing themselves so they're not getting into, this high conflict divorce type of thing, dealing with their lawyers, dealing with the ex, because there's so much emotion, there's so much anger that's there, and we want to get back at them. And, I had a client, she was literally losing her hair over the stress of trying to get more money out of her ex. And it's like, at some point, there does have to be a decision. Like, you don't want to give away everything, but what's the cost long-term of all of this? And when we're in it, like you said, we're not thinking clearly.
Well, I think I told you this story. It was about a month or two ago. I had they mediated 3 times. They couldn't agree. And it was an 8-year-old son. And they were literally not mediating for $200 more a month in child support and income. Right. So I'm sitting there thinking about this, and I met with them for literally about an hour and a half. And I'm like, well, $200. So you're telling me you're going to go to litigation for $200 a month for child support, because there was assets, there's a lot that goes into child support, not just what's your income. But so I'm looking at it, I'm like, you're going to literally spend, that's 10 years. So you're literally about $24,000 about right that you're fighting over for 10 more years. You're telling me that, and you're going to litigate. Trial is going to cost you $50,000. And so it's like a light bulb came on. Like, oh, I didn't think of that. I'm like, what? All right, where are your attorneys at? It's like, what's going on here? And they mediated and they got it done. But it was like, all right, that's just a voice of reason. That's like 2 people that are going at each other because they obviously are divorcing for a reason, because they can't get along. You're not going to get along in a divorce either. But it doesn't have to be that way. Like, it's people now, I think, are understanding that litigation is really toxic. And a lot of the attorneys that I've been working with and that I know personally are really trying to get out of the litigation piece because it is toxic. And trust me, a lot of these attorneys, when I ask them how their year was, they have a lot of debts that they never get paid, and that's factual, because you're billing so much. This guy makes $80,000 a year. Why is his attorney fees $110,000? He's never going to pay that. Like, what are you going to make his family destitute for a long time? I mean, that's what it comes down to in a lot of aspects. So starting off the divorce process right eliminates a lot of that risk. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm in plenty of litigation spaces, because that sometimes is what it comes down to. But if you still plan accordingly, there's a lot of, I would say, a 75% chance that you can divorce correctly. Financially, it won't impact you for the rest of your life. And also, let's just be honest. Most people divorce or having children. Children are the essence of divorce to me. Like, I have a 7-year-old son. My ex-wife and I don't get along. I to the best of my ability, I do everything I can, but we can share space now and we get along. But when he was 1, it wasn't always so. And so having another voice of reason and a professional in the setting is like, all right, let's talk about some options. So creating options for people is really valuable, because also in communication disputes, I have so many people that will say, I got into another altercation with my spouse on a text chain, and I sent it to my attorney. I'm like, well, why'd you do that? You just spent $900.
Yep.
I mean, so, like dumb things like that. Like, and I say dumb things. I did the same thing. I did the same thing.
Because again, you're just so passionately angry and frustrated, and all the different feelings that we have. And sometimes there's anger, sometimes it's sadness. It's all of those things that are going on. And I think, you brought up something that I think is really important. 2 things. One of them, is that back and forth that you have to do. And actually, we know people that actually have apps, I was actually telling someone this the other day. It's really cool, because there are the parenting apps, but there's actually now an app that it'll actually like scan what you're going to write and then be like, you should probably reword this.
Yeah.
But you can send it all to your, if you needed to go further into litigation or whatever, you could send it in if they're sending inappropriate things. But it does kind of check you so that you're thinking more clearly. So you're not just writing all of the things. So there are those things available to anyone who is stuck in that kind of place. But the other thing I was going to say is that a lot of people that I talk to are afraid to even go through the divorce, because they're so afraid for their children. They want to protect their children. They'll say, I want to protect my child because I don't know how my ex will be with them. I don't like they have anger issues, or they don't know how to deal with their children or whatever. So there's all of these things, that reasons, we'll say, that they're coming up with for not ending that relationship. And they will say it's because of the children. What would you say to them?
I see it all the time. I mean, I see it all the time. It's either, my child is in high school and we're going to wait it out another 4 years before my child gets graduated, or I'm so worried about my spouse drinks a lot. I'm worried about this, or I'm worried about their travel habits, or, they already have a significant other, which is a big deal. So honestly, just preparation, like, it's going to happen. Like, your life is going to go on. Your spouse's life's going to go on. So how do we look at this? So I try to create some type of perspective for my clients. So depending on their situation, there's a lot of different situations. So I try to coach them correctly and help them. There's a bigger perspective out there. There's a different way of thinking out there. And I understand that, unless there's addiction issues, abuse issues, emotional abuse issues, there's a lot of factors. So, and I know that there's also a factor of you hate your spouse and you just don't want to go that direction because you want a lot of the parenting time. And I understand that too. But also, is your spouse a good parent? Let's talk about their parenting. Let's talk about their parenting time. Like, let's talk about your child. What kind of relationship do they have? So there's many factors that kind of go into that. But collectively, I think everybody has to be coached on how to do that, because honestly, you're going to have this perception of your spouse for a long time. And it's never good. You're ending a relationship for a reason. I do commend a lot of people that do amicably divorce correctly and are best friends. I'm like, man, I wish I could be best friends with my ex. That'd be awesome. But what I'm glad that doesn't happen is my son comes to me and says, Dad, why do you hate your mom so much? Or why does mom hate you so much? That doesn't happen in my household, or it will not happen in that household either. But there's strategies that have to happen, because I've been divorced 6 years. And that could easily have happened over a long time period. So it's just getting people prepared and having that awareness of how to parent and then co-parent in a parenting situation.
Yeah. And I like to think that, first of all, the relationship that your child has with either parent is their relationship with their parents. So that's going to be on them. We talked in the beginning about control. It's not our job to control the other person, as much as sometimes we might want to. We can't. We have to allow them to be who they are.
That's it. Yeah, you're right. No, control's tough. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're fine.
I wanted to piece this into this. So my son's 7, right? And I've started doing this, and this is why I think my ex and I are starting to form a better relationship. Her birthday was February the 4th. Okay, my son's 7. So he gets home, we have basketball practice, so I'm like, all right, go get, we're doing your homework. We have our routine. I said, how about we sit down? And I did this last year. We have to make your mom a birthday present. So we're going to you need to make whatever. She doesn't do this for me. It doesn't hurt my feelings. All it shows is my son knows how to treat his mother. And I think that's powerful, because a lot of people, and I don't say I don't like my ex. Like, we do not communicate except for just our child. And I would love to have a relationship, but it's just not there yet. And so it doesn't hurt my feelings, but I think we all have to take steps of action for the greater good and the greater purpose for our children. Because I will tell you right now, your kids know they feed off your energy. They feed off what you do, because they see everything. They really do. My daughter's 18, and she's just like, I'm so proud of like the man you've actually come out to be, because the dad that I knew before, like, you were a good dad, but now you're just so much better because you just have this better energy around you. And I think that comes from education and learning, and actually getting through the actually traumatic time. And I think you find yourself on the other end so much more just powerful in every aspect.
Oh yeah. And you should, that's part of, if you can look at it for the lesson as opposed to why did this happen to me, and actually learn.
I hate the word why.
Yeah. And so, it's, I think also too, going back to like, can't control the other parent, is you have to be, for you, the safe space for your child.
Right.
So whether or not the other parent, whatever they do is them, and you're the safe space. You are a safe space. And maybe the other parent is also their safe, who knows? But it's
Right.
not our job to do that for them. We have to do that for ourselves. And so if we are giving tools, the tools, again, how you want your son to grow up and be respectful of women and be a good guy and all those kind of things, we're not going to do that by bad mouthing men or bad mouthing women or whatever those things. Because they, like you said, they pay attention to everything and they internalize it.
Yeah.
And however we're behaving, and I mean, I even see, if David and I are even frustrated with each other, I can see a difference in the children, and we're not a yelling, screaming household. And so I can only imagine, like, if it was, how much more those kids would actually be affected by us being, negative to each other.
I agree. And I think really where the process starts is with how you go about your divorce, really, and how you come out on the other end. I mean, you have individuals like yourself and David who really have the mindset reset, and y'all are all about rebuilding. And I mean, y'all can connect in ways that I cannot do. I'm not that professional. That's why I love, working with you guys and seeing the impact you bring to your clients too. I think from my aspect is, let's talk about divorce. Let's talk about divorce coaching. Let's talk about how you do it. All right. I'm a businessman. I look at things differently. That's just the way I am. Engineers look at things differently. A lot of people have their own take, but this is factual information. So divorce, you are the CEO of this. You are your business. This divorce is a business, make no mistake. How do you prepare for this? A lot of people go to the attorney that their family tells them to go see, friends, family, Facebook, whoever's on the radio at the time, Google, whatever. That may not be the attorney that's right for your situation. It may be great for XYZ, but it might not be for you. It could be, but it may not be. But let's see what happens is most people go into their attorney's office and I'm getting divorced. And their attorney just looks at you. Okay, what do you want to do? I don't know. You tell me. When in actuality, and Teresa's on later this week and she'll be an advocate because she's a great law attorney. They want you to have a plan of action when you come in, whether you're the one that's filing or you're the one that's reciprocating. You have to have a plan of action. So what does that look like? Number one, you show up to the attorney's office, you're depressed, you're emotional, you're upset, you're angry, whatever. You can't logically understand what you really need and want. So the best plan of action is to hire a coach. It's like, all right, I'm going to hire this divorce coach. I'm going to meet with this person. I'm going to lay it all out and kind of understand what I need to do. So as a divorce coach, what we do is we take steps of action, plans of action. We don't plan and no action. We act on our plans. So first you'll engage with me and we'll talk about your situation. And I will give you some good suggestions of what types of attorneys you probably need to look at. Based off your financial information, based off your character, based off what your vision of this divorce looks like. And trust me, I have to pull it out of a lot of people because they just don't know. And there's nothing wrong with not knowing what to do, because trust me, I was there, didn't know what to do. I was just like, here, and I had suffered for it. So you come with me. Once we get you established legally, then we have to start figuring out organization in your paperwork, organization with all your assets, organization with, hey, what does a parenting plan look like? Like, what does that look like? I don't want my spouse to have this. I want them to have every other weekend. Let's see what that looks like. Okay. And then we start pulling all this together. And then it's like, oh, well, I figured, yeah, I'll have to get childcare for this, right? Whatever. I understand that. But so we start collectively putting all the pieces of the puzzle together and we start doing preparation. Preparation means, all right, we're preparing for, we have to do interrogatories, discovery. There may be subpoenas out there. How do we prepare for this? All right. So financially, I don't know how I can financially go on with this. So, all right, let's look at that picture too. So really it's us trying to help this big puzzle, which is pieces scattered all over the board, start putting them together. Because what we do, this will save you thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in litigation fees. Because the idea really, and everybody should want to get to this point, is trying to get to mediation and get this damn thing over with. Yeah. Like, you don't want this to linger 6, 8, 12, 14, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. You don't want that. Financially, you don't want that. And then emotionally, you don't want that. So if you come prepared to your attorney and say, hey, I'm already ready. Like, I have every plan of action ready to go. your attorney's gum will fall out of their mouth. And they'll probably get up and walk around and hug you, because that's what attorneys want. Like, and I always say this, I didn't hate my attorneys at the time because I was hemorrhaging about 70,000 a month, but it was like, I had no recourse of action. I didn't have anything else. That's all I had. So I had to, basically they were my hopes and dreams. I didn't know what the hell to do. So now I have attorney. I literally had a text this morning. I sent one of my clients I've been working with for 2 weeks, went and retained this attorney. And I got this text message that said, I can't thank you enough for having your clients completely prepared and organized, ready to go. Because what it does is like, and I'll say this, like, if you think about just a base rate attorney is $5,000 a return, is a base rate. It could fluctuate where you're at in the world, but let's just say $5,000 retainer, billing out at 300 an hour is about normal. That's 16.6 billable hours. Okay. What does that look like? Okay. Every email, every phone call, $75. So you start compounding all these issues, and then you're mad at your attorney because you have this large ass bill of $9,000 of bullshit. I'm sorry that your spouse didn't show up on time with your child. You don't need to run up a text message, because that just run up $900 on you. And guess what? It didn't change. So as a coach, I have to have them prepared for this, where they're not lashing out and holding on to their attorney. It's like, all right, you can't control this. So let's figure out how to diffuse the situation before the situation arises. And that right there, it stops a lot of problems. So it's like getting your clients prepared, and not just prepared from a financial aspect, mentally. Like, where are you in this process? Because I remember I sat on my couch. I remember it was like 3 or 4 months in, no power on, power, probably still, but I'm just sitting there and I'm just like, I just don't know what the hell I'm doing next, and I just don't know like what I'm doing. And I didn't have someone to call because I knew I couldn't call my attorney because that was going to be another bill. And I didn't really want to have my friends and family because, my family, they don't know what divorce looks like. They immediately despised her. I'm like, yeah, but you have a grandchild, like to think about. So it's like your friends and family, and my friends weren't giving me any good advice whatsoever. They're telling me to go out and nail everything that walked, which wasn't good advice. Yeah. So, you have a lifeline. You have a lifeline now that gives you a plan of action. It's like, okay, if I'm stuck in this space, this is what Chris and I worked on. This is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to see it through. And that really creates such a mega impact on not just now, but on future. Because I can't tell you how many times you look back on your divorce. You probably have. I know I have. I know many clients that I'm dealing with right now in post have. You look back and you're just like, why did I do, like, what was that? Like, what was I thinking? It's because you weren't thinking correctly. Like, all you're doing is you're fighting for everything you have, and you're trying to take care of your children and take care of yourself. And it's a very hard road to do by yourself. Yeah. So I always, say the organization or the preparation is huge for this, because you have a plan of action for co-parenting. Co-parenting's tough. And I feel like I do more co-parenting coaching than I do just on the organizational aspect, because it's, like I said, communication is key I think it's the keys to the kingdom. Mm-hmm. If you can't communicate while you're married, what in God's hell, what do you think you're really going to be able to communicate effectively in a co-parenting relationship? Because you have a piece of paper that says you have to? No, that doesn't work. And what's going to result is probably negativity to your child. And it's not healthy. It's just, but we see it day in, day out, and it's tough. Like, and I'm not going to say I'm perfect, because I'm not. And I have to step back myself sometimes. Like, I had a situation last week and I'm just like, I really just want to jump off the rails, but I don't. I just simply say, okay, and it's like, it's fine. You enrolled him in something that I can't be a part of because I'm out of town. It's fine. He's going to enjoy it. But it's like, it took me a while to get here, but it shouldn't take you that long. You should have everything working out, going down the path. So it's very, I think communication to me is vital in every aspect of life.
Hands down.
You
Yeah.
know, especially in divorce. I mean, especially in divorce, especially in co-parenting.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I feel like I'm such a better co-parent than I was a husband. I was all worried about money, making money. I didn't, it was just no, it's just I was a different guy. I was just a different guy. And so with this, I want everybody not to look back like I have, and you or everybody else. It's like, all right, now there's help here. There's education here. We don't have to spend our life savings. We can do asset division in an appropriate way. I mean, I have so many people, especially men. I think men are tough because they don't want to get up to give that money up. They don't want to give up that house or that whatever, that car, or whatever it may be, or dog. I mean, hell, dog's a big one.
Oh my, yeah, yeah. We talked about that. The fighting with the animals is huge.
Man, so you just spent $20,000 on a dog that has 2 left to live. I get it. I love my dogs. Like it's my dog. That's my daughter.
Yeah.
But it's just so much, and it's like you can always make more money. And I mean, and I get it. And there's certain situations make sense for this time to fight for, but collectively we have to all put it on the puzzle and see what makes sense. Because I put everything on the table and then I take it off if it's not an option. And it's hard to do when you're emotional, and you're triggered, and you hate hate the person you're dealing with. It's hard to take these pieces off the board. You kind of leave everything as a mess. And your attorneys have to kind of divvy through everything, which in route costs you a lot of money.
Yeah. It's all the time and energy, and like you said, we're going to have Teresa on. We have John Necklinger on as well later this week, talking about mediation versus divorce too. And a lot of people think that's not even a possibility when in reality it is. But it's all this back and forth, and the lawyers are not there to listen to your frustrations. They're not there about feelings. They're literally just there to follow the law.
Some do, but
some do. Yes.
I mean, and lawyers get a bad rap. I mean, this is what they're paid to do. I would never say you need to be a pro se person unless you have some extensive law background.
And that's what it is too, though, is that the lawyers, like, they're not trained in this stuff. Like, this is not what they're supposed to do. They're not supposed to emotionally support you. They're just there to get things done.
I work with many CDFAs, right? And when you had, Melissa on the other day, I don't know her personally, but I heard she does really good work. But I had an attorney send me he was like, I'm having trouble with all these assets and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, have you consulted a CDFA? Well, no. Why not? Well, I don't really know any. I'm like, well, I've got literally 8 that I can send you right now. And so it's like here. So it's like, that's another intricate part of your team. Like you have this, and attorneys, they do a lot on their own. They have paralegals that do a lot. And I do know some like law offices actually have internal coaching, which is kind of being a hybrid now of a lot of different law practices, which is good. I mean, it's really good. And I think divorce coaching in 10 years is going to be, if it's not a necessity or a mandatory thing, I think it's going to be very on the frontier. And I think there'll be more education out there about us, about what we do, and helping these individuals, create a positive outcome for themselves and longevity for the rest of their life. Because I mean, I would have never made, like, a normal person, like, making it through financially, and you're fighting over so many things. It takes you 5 to 10 years to repair. It really is. And it's tough. I mean, it's a tough situation. And, everybody jokes about the attorneys win. Not necessarily, because what happens if you can't pay them? That's a big problem. So it's, CDFAs, like, that's a part of the team. Therapists, part of the team. Like, coaches and therapy is 2 different, we're 2 different entities here. When we talk about divorce support services for businesses, you and I are kind of getting into that space, and they always say, oh, well, we have therapists that can help with divorce. What does that look like? Oh, you call the hotline.
Yeah.
You just saved their life, buddy.
Yeah.
No, you did not. So it's like, all right, so a therapist, and like we know, you do have some that specialize in divorce and marital, dissolutions and marriage therapy. And I know plenty of them. They're great. And I think certain individuals need that. But also collectively, we are experts in process management. We know what's happening. We know what to expect and what you may encounter. So we have to prepare you for that. Like, you don't understand, like, if you, the court system, I'll say in Memphis and experienced in many other places in the world, they're backed up. So you're ready to go to trial, you're ready to mediate or whatever, and all of a sudden you get an email that says, "Hey, we're behind 3 months. It's gonna, there was a trial, we couldn't get in. Now we have to go another 4 or 5 months." That's another 4 or 5 months of court or or whatever, like litigation fees and all this other time management you're going to have to worry about. And you're not prepared for that, and all of a sudden you go down. It's like, man, you should have been prepared for that. Okay, what's that look like? This is how we're going to do this. So there's always these steps of action and all these unforeseen circumstances that always happen. It's like, you're going through this and all of a sudden you start peeling back the onion. Oh, I didn't know that he had a relationship with my sister. Oh, shit. And it's like, I get a call. I'm like, oh, Lord. Okay. So it's like, you're not, certain things you're prepared for, certain things you're not. So, okay, what's this look like? Let's talk about this. So there's a lot of ways to prepare individuals for divorce. And really, I think a lot of the preparation comes from the things that are unseen. Because I remember I had a lot of things that hit me like a freight train that I wasn't ready for. Emotionally, it just set me back and set me back and set me back. And it was just tough.
Yeah. And that's, and again, I love the vision. I love the support. I love the passion for being able to help people. And I think, if anybody is watching this and thinking, hey, maybe I do need a little bit more support, because, people are afraid to get divorce coaches because they're like, oh, it's going to be another expense. But in reality, like we talked about, it's actually going to save you money and emotional, baggage that comes along with it. It's going to save you that as well. So having that team in place is going to help you process it to the best of your ability and make it not last too long. We've already spent years in this relationship that didn't work. Let's
Right.
not waste any more time, just going through the process, and let's start living our best life now. Let's start stepping into the great things we were put, not just suffering through this relationship and ending the relationship.
I couldn't agree more. And I think a lot of people do look at that and they're like, well, I don't need another expense in my life. Okay, well, I get that too, but I'm a fraction of a retainer cost or the longevity of your life. Like, I'm very inexpensive to some other people out there. And trust me, my job is I am completely transparent, and I'm completely like, we're going to get this done. Like, I'm to the end person. I'm a ride or die. Like, we're going to take care of this and we're going to get you to where you need to be. And yes, and of course, I've had attorneys say the same thing. Oh, well, you're going to be in my pocket. Well, then I don't really need to work with you, because if you see things that way, then you're definitely not the right fit for my client. Like, we all have to work together. I mean, we're all doing this together. From what you and David do, I can't do it. What lawyers do, I can't do it. What CDFAs do, I can't do it. Therapists, I can't do it. Mortgage lenders, I help also fit pieces of this puzzle too. I have a lot of other resources that I can include into this that help benefit clients. Restructuring your mortgage or asset division or whatever it may be. You may need a trainer, personal trainer. You may need a med spa to go to. I have resources, so it's easy for me to refer to than just going to your lawyer and say, here, save my life.
Yeah. Well, and it's really about having the best person for each job, for each thing that you need, and again, anyone who's successful realizes that you can't be everything to everyone, nor should you be. Our expertise is not all over the place. Go to the person who knows best what to do to best support you and make sure that you can go through this as seamlessly as possible. And again, the time, I can't stress enough, the time. It's not just the money, it's the time, it's the energy, it's the emotional aspect, all of that. So having someone really support you. How can people find you if they're, and by the way, if you have any questions, make sure you put your questions in the comments. Was this helpful for everybody? Is there anything else you want to ask? Chris, how can people follow you?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. My website, www.divorcetom.com. You can share my cell phone. My cell phone is always ringing. But any of those ways are very easy to reach me. And I'd love to help anybody that I can, shift some perspective and just try to get this over for you in the best possible way.
I love it. This is Be Your Own Valentine. What's something you'd like to leave the audience with
Woo!
about maybe a way for them to be their own Valentine?
Be your own Valentine. What am I actually doing? I don't even know what the hell I'm doing on Valentine. Good question. My girlfriend's gonna be pissed.
Yeah, you better start thinking about it.
Oh, I know, right? So I'm not playing golf. So yes.
Well, that would be for you. You could play golf for you and then later on do something. That would work for Be Your Own Valentine.
I would, encourage, everybody, really enjoy yourself. I mean, I remember my first Valentine's Day going through a divorce. I had Memphis Grizzly tickets. And I remember on Valentine's Day, I upgraded my seats to floor seats, and I went by myself. And I tell you what, I had a blast. And honestly, yeah, it's okay to go out by yourself. I made friends everywhere I go. And if you're introverted, you can still make friends. I think it's healthy to make friends. Like one of your segments, you said to make new friends. I think it's vital. And honestly, I think Valentine's Day is one of these days where I always kind of valued it as it's like that one day, but really you have 365 days to love yourself and love everybody else in your life. So I would just encourage everybody to, whoever's in your circle right now that is helping you out in a tough space, I'd lean on them a little bit and just value and just let them know how much they mean to you, because that's huge. I lost a lot of friends in my divorce, and I have the ones, my circle right now is that circle's for life. Like, they help me through times that I can't even say on live network, So I would just value to appreciate the people that are in your circle and just let them know that you love them. I mean, it could be your best friend, your cousin, your neighbor, who the hell knows who's helping you right now. Mm-hmm. Your coach, your lawyer, your Stephanie and David. I mean, send some love out. I mean, it's needed and it's appreciated. So I'd encourage that.
And that's true. I mean, I love that, because that's really to be able to share with people. And I'll say, and I'll add to that too, is to share your love. And also, don't be afraid to ask for help from those people in your circle.
Yeah. Help is needed. Mm-hmm. Help is understood. And, help is not something that's, it's a thorn in somebody's side. I mean, a lot of people, when you go to the help, like, I have people ask me for help, not in this space, but like for other things, and I'm always appreciative. I mean, don't come and ask me for a whole shit ton of money or something, but if you need help for something, like, I'm happy to do it. Like, so yeah, I think it's appreciated. I think full circle.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Chris, for coming and hanging out with us today. I really appreciate it. We obviously went over, but there was so much great information for us to share. Definitely go ahead and go follow Chris on all his different social medias. Go check out his website. But what Chris does is really, really helpful. I love that he is so passionate about helping others. Again, when you have that pain, you've been through it. We understand these things, what people are thinking, what they're going through from a very, very different perspective. So you want to get those experts. You want to just stop saying that you're fine, realize it's okay not to be okay, and get the people on your team that are going to fight for you, even when you're not sure if you can fight for yourself. So thank you, Chris, for coming and hanging out with us. I really appreciate it. Thank you for everybody for tuning in with us today. And if those of you who are watching and you're looking to work with us or work with Chris, make sure you comment in the comments. We've got actually a special going on until the 14th at midnight. We can let you know about that for some extra support. I know Chris has availability for some extra support as well. So just let us know where you're at, and we can help plug you in and make sure that you have the right team to create that life that you are excited about, no matter where you are in this process. So thank you, everybody, again, one more time. So good to see all of you. We will see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Never forget, you are way stronger than you realize. Bye, everybody.
Good.